Usually when we talk about like a high-performance sports car,
Hmm.
we picture the sleek exterior, the roaring engine.
Right, the sheer speed.
Yeah, exactly. You step on the gas and you just launch forward. It's this pure expression of forward momentum.
Because the entire machine is built to translate fuel into output as efficiently as possible. There's no wasted energy.
Right, but imagine you buy this incredible machine, right? You get in, you floor the accelerator, the engine is absolutely screaming, RPMs are deep in the red, and you're barely moving at 10 miles an hour.
Because someone has clamped the brakes down entirely.
Exactly. You have all this explosive power, but it's not going to the wheels at all. It's just grinding against the brakes.
Mm.
So you're generating massive amounts of heat, you're burning out the transmission, and I mean, you're essentially tearing the car apart from the inside.
Which is a terrifying way to drive.
It is. And that grinding, that catastrophic internal mechanical friction, that is actually what we are talking about today when we use the word authenticity.
Yeah, which sounds so counterintuitive at first.
It really does. Because normally authenticity is framed as this, I don't know, soft, feel-good wellness buzzword, like a luxury lifestyle choice, live your truth, that kind of thing.
Right, something you do on a weekend retreat.
Exactly. But the source material we are diving into today argues something radically different. And I mean radical. So, okay, let's unpack this for everyone listening.
Yeah, the sources reframe the lack of authenticity, which we'll call masking, not as a moral failing or a personality quirk, but as a state of extreme mechanical friction.
So it's pure physics.
Pure physics.
Yeah.
Going back to your sports car scenario, it's not that you lack the engine power to move forward in your career or your relationships or just your life. It's that the processing power required to manage the internal conflict of being someone you are not is entirely consumed internally.
Meaning all your fuel is just burning up as heat.
Exactly. It burns up before a single drop of it can be projected into the world as, actual constructive action.
Wow. So we are talking about a literal internal civil war here. Authenticity isn't about finding your bliss. It's actually the fundamental engineering prerequisite for human capability.
You literally cannot maximize your potential without it. It's a mechanical requirement.
Which blows my mind. But to really grasp why this is a mechanical requirement, we first have to sort of dismantle how you view your own mind. Because the way most of us think about our consciousness as this single, unified self making decisions, it's totally flawed according to these sources.
It is. We have to start by looking at what the text calls telic systems.
Telic.
Yeah, telic. It simply means goal-directed. The material points out this fascinating, almost holographic rule of reality. The exact same mechanical laws that govern a single biological cell govern a human mind.
Okay, that's a big jump.
It is, but it tracks. And those same laws govern a relationship between two people, which scales up to a village and eventually to an entire civilization. They are all just goal-directed systems trying to maintain their coherence and structure against the chaos of the outside world.
So a single cell trying to survive and reproduce is playing by the identical physics rulebook as a massive society trying to maintain its infrastructure and economy.
Precisely. And that leads us to the biggest illusion we suffer from.
Which is?
That your mind is a monolith. Contrary to popular belief, your mind is not a single entity. It is composed of various telic subsystems.
Oh, wow. Okay, so like what?
Well, think about your inner voices. Your sudden biological drives, ingrained habits, protective instincts. Each of these subagents is relentlessly pursuing its own specific goals right inside your head.
Right. So instead of seeing the mind as a single person peacefully driving a car, it's more like a messy corporate boardroom.
That's a great way to put it.
Or like a really noisy democracy where different executives are constantly fighting over the annual budget. You've got the executive logic saying, we need to analyze this spreadsheet and find the flaw. While the executive of rest is screaming, if we don't power down and sleep right now, we are going to burn out.
Yep.
And meanwhile, the executive of social survival is in the corner whispering, don't say anything controversial, just make sure everyone in this room likes you.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. And just as a nation will absolutely stall out and collapse if its core institutions are constantly battling each other, I mean, if the Department of Defense is at war with the Treasury, no roads get built.
Right. Nothing happens.
Exactly. The human mind consumes its own energy if its subagents are in chronic conflict. If your internal drive for deep, solitary analysis is constantly at war with an enforced need to be incredibly social and accommodating, your mind essentially gridlocks.
Okay, so in a healthy state, I imagine there is some sort of internal constitution, like an architecture that arbitrates these boardroom conflicts so the whole system can actually move forward and make a decision.
Yes, that's a coherent mind.
But when that internal boardroom is forced by the outside world to pass laws it fundamentally disagrees with, the system panics. It has to invent a fake executive to deal with the threat. And that seems to be what the sources call the mask.
That's exactly it. And the text defines the mask not as just telling a white lie to a friend or being polite at a dinner party. That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
The mask is the installation of a counterfeit operating system that is fundamentally incompatible with your native biological architecture. It is a sustained systemic suppression of your actual configuration.
See, I want to push on that distinction a bit. Because a lot of people might hear counterfeit operating system and think, wait, isn't adjusting to your environment just a sign of maturity?
How do you mean?
Well, if I go to a formal corporate dinner, I don't eat with my hands, right? I adapt to the room. I use the right fork. Why is this specific type of masking considered so dangerous?
It's a great question. Because temporary code switching or social politeness, that's a normal, healthy, adaptive skill. You are choosing to run a small program for an hour to navigate a specific situation smoothly.
Okay, so just running an app for a bit.
Exactly. The danger lies in duration and depth. The mask we're discussing is a complete architectural overwrite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, imagine someone whose native cognitive architecture is a systemizer. They naturally process the world through logic, patterns, direct problem solving. But they find themselves in an environment, maybe a family, maybe a career, that demands they operate as an empathizer. Someone who navigates purely through emotional intuition and reading subtle interpersonal cues.
So they aren't just putting on a suit for a meeting.
Yeah.
They are trying to run an iOS application on an Android phone, but doing it by manually translating the code line by line, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for decades.
For decades. And executing that kind of perpetual translation requires a massive energy budget.
I can't even imagine.
The sources detail 4 specific, devastating ways that this mask drains your processing power. The first mechanical drain is suppression.
No suppression.
Your brain has to constantly scan its own internal network. The moment a native impulse arises, say, our systemizer's natural drive to point out a glaring logical flaw in a terrible business plan, the system has to detect it, evaluate it as dangerous to the mask's survival, and block it before it reaches the surface.
That sounds like a firewall that is constantly under attack from its own network.
It's exactly what it is.
And if you are actively suppressing the real impulse, you can't just leave a blank space in the conversation. You have to fill it with something else.
Yeah.
Which means the second cost has to be the actual creation of the fake response.
Yes. The sources refer to that second cost as performance. The counterfeit traits don't just passively exist, they have to be actively generated.
So it takes literal work.
Heavy lifting. It is the muscular, effortful generation of forced enthusiasm at a social event you natively dread. It is feigning an intuitive understanding of complex office politics when your brain really just wants to look at the raw data.
Yeah.
You are burning energy to project a hologram.
Wait, so there's a gap between the suppressed native impulse and the performed fake one.
A huge gap.
Because if the systemizer's first thought is, this plan mathematically fails, but the required performance is, I love how collaborative this idea is, the brain has to bridge that gap. You must have to calculate that difference in real time.
Which is the third massive energy drain, translation.
Translation.
Every single interaction requires a real-time conversion algorithm. You are presented with a choice. First, your brain asks, what would the native me do? Then it asks, what does the mask me need to do to survive this specific social dynamic? Then, how do I bridge that gap without anyone noticing the delay?
Oh my God.
It is an immense cognitive load, converting between fundamentally incompatible value systems on the fly.
And if you are running a translation algorithm all day, you also have to make sure there are no glitches. So there must be a constant background program making sure the mask doesn't slip.
You nailed it. The fourth and final cost is exactly that, monitoring.
Constant monitoring.
Constant, perpetual self-surveillance. You are always watching yourself from the outside. Did I sound too critical just then? Did my boss notice I'm actually miserable? Are my facial expressions matching the emotional tone of this room, or do I look blank? You can never truly relax because the moment you drop the surveillance, the native architecture will assert itself.
Okay, so we have suppression, performance, translation, and monitoring. All 4 of these are running simultaneously.
All at once. And the sources actually provide a thermodynamic equation for this energy drain, taking all of this into account.
Let's hear it.
The equation is simple but brutal. Total energy equals conflict energy plus action energy.
Okay. Total equals conflict plus action.
Right. And you only have a finite amount of total energy available on any given day. If the mask is running, your conflict energy, which is the combined processing power required for the suppression, performance, translation, and monitoring, is astronomically high.
Which means it consumes almost your entire total energy budget,
Well,
leaving a deficit.
exactly.
You have virtually zero action energy left over to actually live your life.
Which perfectly explains a phenomenon so many people experience. You sleep for a full 8 hours, you wake up, you sit down at your desk to do a project you think you should care about, and you feel completely paralyzed.
You can't even start.
Right. And you tell yourself, oh, I'm lazy, or I lack discipline. But you aren't lazy. You aren't lacking discipline. You are mechanically tapped out. The internal civil war has consumed all your fuel before you even typed the first word.
Wow. Okay, so if this mask is a black hole for our processing power, if it's literally eating our capacity from the inside and preventing us from executing any real action in the world, how do we end up with these masks in the first place? I mean, no one wakes up on a Tuesday and decides, I'd love to install a counterfeit operating system today and permanently cripple my own potential.
They don't. And understanding the origin is crucial because masks are not formed by conscious choice. They are forged by environmental pressure. Specifically, what the sources call power asymmetry.
Power asymmetry.
This is a dynamic where one person holds the power and the other person requires their favor to survive or maintain stability.
Oh, we see this all the time. The dynamic between a helpless child and a parent, or a junior employee and a powerful boss, or even a financially dependent partner and the primary breadwinner. The dependent party cannot simply exit the relationship. Their literal well-being depends on keeping the powerful party comfortable.
So if the native architecture of the dependent person conflicts with the needs, the ego, or the comfort of the powerful person, the dependent person has no choice but to adapt. They form an implicit treaty. The dependent party adopts whatever traits the powerful party demands as a survival strategy.
Let's paint a specific picture of this for the listener. Imagine a child whose native architecture is highly ambitious, loud, and inherently risk-taking. But they are raised by parents who are deeply anxious, hypercritical, and strictly focused on safety and conformity.
A very common scenario.
Right. The child quickly learns that expressing their native ambition threatens the emotional stability of their caregivers, which in turn threatens their own safety.
Yes. So, to survive that environment, the child forges a mask. They learn to suppress their drive, perform contentment, translate their bold ideas into acceptable, watered-down suggestions, and constantly monitor their tone to ensure they don't trigger their parents' anxiety. The implicit treaty is signed. I will hide who I am, so you will continue to provide for me.
Think about what that means when that child grows up. Let's say they become a corporate lawyer because it's safe and prestigious, fulfilling the terms of that original treaty. By the time they are 40, they are sitting in their car in the driveway for 20 minutes every evening, utterly exhausted, dreading walking into their own house.
We've all heard that story. Or lived it.
Right. And they didn't run a marathon. They just sat in an air-conditioned office.
Right.
But their brain has been running the suppression, performance, translation, and monitoring programs at light speed all day.
And here's the tragedy of it. Over time, those thousands of daily microadjustments don't just remain as temporary survival tactics. The mask hardens. It calcifies. The sources refer to this terrifying stage as the habit prison.
The habit prison. That sounds bleak.
It is the moment the mask evolves from being an adaptive tool you picked up for self-defense into an inescapable cage that you live inside.
It becomes like a load-bearing wall in the architecture of your life.
Exactly. Because you've built your entire adult reality around this fake version of yourself. Your career requires the mask. Your friends were attracted to the counterfeit version of you. Your spouse may have fallen in love with the mask.
Oh, man. So if you try to just take the mask off, the entire house you've built might collapse. The people around you will say you've changed or you're acting selfishly, when in reality, you are just finally showing your native architecture.
Yes, and that is why people stay trapped in the habit prison for decades. They feel a chronic, aching sense of wasted potential, but they are terrified to dismantle the cage because of the collateral damage.
Which brings us to the core thesis of the material today. Dismantling of the mask, achieving true authenticity, is not an optional, soft preference for personal growth. It is a mandatory mechanical intervention.
It's life or death for your potential.
Right. If all your processing power is spent managing internal friction just to keep the walls of the habit prison from falling down, you have zero energy left to project into the world. You cannot maximize human capability while running a counterfeit operating system. You have to remove the friction to free up the engine.
Which is such an empowering way to look at it. You aren't broken, you're just running the wrong code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, we've been looking at this almost entirely on the scale of the individual mind, dealing with our own internal noisy boardrooms.
Mhm.
But early on, we talked about that holographic rule of telex systems, the idea that the exact same mechanical laws govern a single mind and a relationship between two people.
Yes. The mechanics scale up perfectly. We've seen how these implicit treaties destroy an individual's energy, but this exact same mechanical friction destroys partnerships and dyads using the exact same laws of physics.
Because a dyad is simply a larger goal-directed system trying to remain coherent. It is a system made of two individuals.
Right. And just like the mind has sub-agents that need to be aligned to prevent a civil war, the relationship has two entirely distinct human architectures that need to be aligned, which means the thing that usually blows up a relationship is the exact same thing that blows up the individual mind.
Which is what?
Implicit contracts. People enter relationships holding massive, complex contracts with each other. Expectations, rules, and boundaries that are simply never spoken aloud. We assume our partner shared our native operating system.
Oh, I see. We think, well, if you truly love me, you will just know that I need an hour of total silence after work.
Exactly. Or a good partner automatically knows how to handle finances the way I do.
Because these expectations are never explicitly spoken, they're entirely invisible. They are essentially invisible landmines scattered all over the living room of the relationship. You can't see them, but the moment you step on one, the explosion is very real.
And when one partner inevitably steps on one of these invisible landmines, when they violate a term of the unspoken contract, massive friction is generated. The dyad experiences a systemic shock. Suddenly, the relationship is consuming astronomical amounts of conflict energy. The couple is fighting, or worse, simmering in silent resentment.
Leaving zero action energy for the couple to actually build a life together, enjoy each other's company, or pursue shared goals. They're just managing the thermodynamic fallout of violated implicit contracts.
It's exhausting.
So the logical fix for an implicit contract must be making it explicit. But I have to ask, isn't sitting down and hashing out an explicit, literal relationship contract with your partner incredibly unromantic?
I know, it sounds like it.
Yeah. It sounds rigid. It sounds like a corporate merger, completely stripping the spontaneity and romance out of partnership.
It sounds totally counterintuitive, but the sources suggest that nothing is more deeply romantic than zero friction. Think about what an explicit relationship contract actually does. It isn't a restrictive legal document. It is a clear, spoken architectural blueprint of boundaries, needs, and communication styles.
So by making the rules of engagement explicit, you are systematically removing all the invisible landmines from the field.
Exactly. You aren't forcing your partner to navigate a dark room full of tripwires anymore.
Wow.
You are giving each other the exact room you both need to live authentically. You don't have to guess. You don't have to run that exhausting translation and monitoring program in your head to figure out if your partner is secretly mad at you because you didn't read their mind. The explicit structure preserves the energy of the dyad.
That makes so much sense. By creating that explicit structure, you are actually removing the need to mask around your partner. You can both operate on your native architectures because the boundaries are known and respected.
And when you aren't expending processing power trying to decode implicit expectations, your conflict energy drops to near zero. And as we know from the equation, when conflict energy is zero, action energy goes to maximum.
You actually have the surplus fuel to love each other deeply,
Yes.
to be genuinely spontaneous, and to build a meaningful life because you aren't bleeding out your processing power just trying to keep the relationship stable.
A mind without internal friction and a dyad without internal friction are mathematically the only systems capable of sustained, high-level output. Authenticity isn't about being perfectly honest all the time, just because honesty is a nice moral virtue.
Right.
Authenticity is about removing the counterfeit code so the system doesn't crash.
It is the necessary transition from a state of internal civil war to a state of absolute internal alignment.
Exactly.
This whole deep dive completely flips the script on what it means to be you. Whether we are talking about a single mind composed of a chaotic boardroom of sub-agents, or a partnership of two people trying to navigate a life together, removing the mask is the only way forward.
The only way.
You have to stop running the counterfeit operating system, even if you built it years ago, to survive a bad boss or a tough childhood. Because until you do, your engine is just burning itself out against the brakes. Freeing up that internal friction is the only way to unlock your actual capability.
So think about your own daily routine for everyone listening. When you hit that wall of total exhaustion at 3 in the afternoon, evaluate what is actually draining you. Are you actually tired because you're doing too much in the physical world? Or are you exhausted because the vast majority of your processing power is being spent fighting an internal civil war to maintain a mask, burning out your engine against the brakes before you even get out of bed?